Welcome to One Tired Teacher, episode 116, How to Get Your Creative Juices Flowing in the Classroom with Natasha Nurse Clarke. I'm excited today to have a fellow educator with me who is also in the world of education, but she's actually coming from the college level. So that's pretty exciting because I'm not sure how many people I've had on the show that have come from that level, but I think she has so much to offer. She really talks about getting our creative juices flowing, and I really think that that's beneficial to all levels. So I hope you stick around.
Welcome to One Tired Teacher. And even though she may need a nap, this teacher is ready to wake up and speak her truth about the trials and treasures of teaching. Here she is, wide awake. Wait, she's not asleep right now, is she? She is awake, right? Okay. From Trina Devery Teaching and Learning, your host, Trina Devery.
Hey, so today we are talking about getting your creative juices flowing. So if you missed the last 2 months of the podcast where I was on a makerspace like rampage, I feel like, and you didn't choose to join me for Mastering Makerspace, that's okay. There's always next time, which will probably be sometime over the summer. It'll be a little ways away. So I'll let you know. I'll keep you informed if you are interested in that. But today I'd like to take a turn to, we're still talking about being creative and motivating, inspiring students, because that is really the thing that I care the most about, no matter how you do it. And I stumbled upon Natasha, and we're in a mutual group together. And I was like, oh, I definitely want to have her on. She's got some great ideas. It doesn't matter what level we are teaching. If we're a kindergarten teacher, we're a college teacher. We can all benefit from being a little more creative. So let's get on with the show. So I'm so excited to have Natasha Nurse Clarke here today to talk to us about getting our creative juices flowing and really engaging our students. Now, Natasha is speaking mainly to like college level students, which I know that my audience is a lot more like elementary school, but I think it is so important for all of us, like as educators, to really think about the ways in which we can get kids excited about learning, no matter how old they are, even if it's a 80-year-old student. So I think that that's really important. So I'm happy to have you here today, Natasha. Welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here. I draw so much from the K-12 educators, so I'm really happy to be in this space with you and talk about this topic because I know that it may not be an area where K-12 educators may have thought they would be teaching online, whereas a lot of college educators do teach online. So I'm happy that I'm able to contribute something to this community since I get so much from it.
Oh, well, thank you. And we are happy to have you. So because we can always learn from one another. And that's the part of it that I love so much. Like that whole thinking and learning just continues on and on, no matter, you start off learning when you're born, basically, until you're not.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So tell us a little bit before we start, like a little bit about your background.
Sure. So I am a nurse it's my profession. So I began nursing in the neonatal intensive care unit. So it's like with babies, premature babies, and absolutely loved it. Thought I'd spend my entire career there. And then when I went back to school to get my master's degree, I got the opportunity to transition to another position that was more of a desk job type of thing. And that gave me the opportunity to pursue higher education. So I went actually to pursue a PhD in nursing. Again, no thoughts of academia. I really wanted to teach, but still in the hospital setting.
Wow.
But the way that the world works, things aligned, and I ended up working as an adjunct in a nursing program at a college, and I absolutely loved it. And I said, okay, this is where I need to be. So when I finished my PhD program, I started teaching full time. and I was doing a lot of online teaching, and it was just awesome for me. It was just an automatic connection because
Mm.
it just allowed me to be so creative and do things out of the box. And I think probably one of the things that really drew me to nursing, I mean, obviously my last name is Nurse. Couldn't get away from that. So, but I always loved teaching, and a lot of nursing has to do with teaching and
Mm.
education. And even when I wanted to go higher in nursing, it was still as an educator to help other nurses learn. So it made sense to me, the academic route, because I'm still teaching with nurses. So it worked out really well. I started teaching and I taught face to face classes, large lecture classes, smaller classes. I taught online, I taught hybrid classes, I taught clinicals in the hospital.
Wow.
None of
Wait,
them
yeah.
compared to my teaching online. I loved it so much. So I said, this is where I want to be.
That's unbelievable. And it's like you have a natural teacher in you, which I think is exciting. Always exciting to hear that. Like it feels like a fellow like sisterhood. And and I guess I'm excluding men, but it does feel like it's more predominantly women. And I love that. And I think that it's interesting to have like such an range of or array of experiences as far as like hands-on and in a classroom or in a lecture hall and online. Like it gives you unique perspectives that not all educators have.
Yeah, it really does. I used to think, anybody can teach, right? And of course, I've come to know that that's not true. Anybody
Mm,
can teach, but not everybody's suited for it.
yes.
And then I used to think if you can teach, you can teach in any format, in any
Mhm.
modality. And technically, it's true, but there are some arenas that will really kind of propel you. There are certain areas that you just do better in than in others. And
Yes.
you know, there are some people out there that are touched and can work in any kind of area, but the one that you love the most, the one that you feel the most comfortable in, is really the one that you and your students are going to be able to benefit from the most. So
Mhm.
I'm really glad that I had the opportunity to teach in so many different areas. But oh my goodness, there are a few of them that I'm like, please don't put me back there.
That's funny. I think there's a lot of people that feel that way. Whether it's a different grade level or it's something like that, like you just when you know that it's not the place for you, then you know, and probably like
Exactly.
really fast.
Exactly. I always say nurses and teachers, we can make it work no matter what. But,
Mhm.
there are certain areas that you prefer over another.
You're right, you're right. I have felt that way as like I'm a media specialist along with, owning a business. I also am a media specialist in a school and I used to be a second grade teacher for a really long time and then I've been the media specialist. This is like my second year doing it. And I when I first went in I'm like the kindergartners like it's like herding cats. I don't know how kindergarten teachers handle that every single day. It's like I am scared when they come. I'm like, like I'm much better now. Like they're fine. But the first couple of weeks, I'm like, oh my gosh, what do
Yes.
I do?
That's
So
that commonality that I was mentioning about teachers and nurses and healthcare in general. Many
mm,
people have said, "Oh my God, I could never work in a neonatal intensive care unit." And I say,
yeah,
"There's lots of places I couldn't work either. Like, don't put me in a burn unit or something like."
yes.
So there are certain areas that you're just more in tune with, and those are the places where you can flourish.
Yeah, I think so too. My best friend in high school and in college, she was a NICU nurse we went to school together and I watched her like learning all that and doing that and then actually doing it in Atlanta. And I was like, "Oh, it was just unbelievable." So, it's unbelievable what you do and how you take care of those teeny tiny precious babies and
Yeah,
those parents.
yeah.
So
Thank you.
that's amazing. Okay, so you said that you gravitated more towards online, like you really enjoyed that. So
Yeah.
what about that like was the thing that made you go, "Oh yes, I love this."
You know what? It was this feeling of I can turn this into whatever I want. I can be as creative as I want. I can, bring a topic alive in a different way that I maybe can't do in a face-to-face classroom.
Mhm.
It was really when I was in graduate school and we had to make presentations to the class about a topic. And I put together this PowerPoint presentation and I had pictures and I had music and I even had the words coming across the screen one by one, dancing to the song. I had so much fun with it. I mean,
Uh-huh.
Lord knows if the content was even applicable, but
That's funny.
I just had so much fun just putting it together. And I was just like, I was in this great space. And it
Mhm.
was technology and me working with it, putting things together. And that's what really got me into online education because I love being creative. I don't,
Mhm.
and the other thing is, I don't particularly see myself as a creative person. I
Mhm.
very much like, I guess I could say commercial things. I like,
Mhm.
mainstream things, nothing that's too different or out there or boisterous. So I don't particularly think of myself as creative, but I love being creative. I don't know if those are both the same
Yes.
thing.
No, I think it's just a different way of looking at it.
Yeah.
I think that's really interesting. And I think it's interesting that you say that you're not creative when you like there's already things that you've mentioned that sound creative. You have to be creative in order to actually make them work really well. But sometimes we don't look at it that way unless it's like really artsy or something like that. And
Yeah.
yeah, we
I
don't give
think
it
that's what it is. I mean, I say that I don't think I'm creative, and maybe what I should say is I never thought of myself as a creative person, but I
Mhm.
love being creative. So probably moving forward, I'm going to say I am a very creative person.
Yes, you are. That's what you definitely should say when you're moving forward because getting students, no matter how old they are, to engage online is not like an easy thing. And on top of that, like you have to be creative in order to inspire them. So,
Yes. Yes, absolutely. I think one of the things, especially because I'm working with college students, a
mhm,
lot of them are working, a lot of them have families, and I'm working with non traditional students. So a lot of them are older and they've tried other careers, they've gone down other paths. A lot of people, this is a second career for them. So you're really trying to grab their attention, even though these are students who are there willingly. Uh,
mhm.
Maybe
Yes,
unlike a lot of K 12,
that's true. That is
don't really
true.
have a choice.
They have to go. Yep. I think that does make a huge difference, but
Yes.
yes.
So even though they're there willingly, you still have to grab their attention because a lot of people may be there just to say, hey, I'm in this class, I did the assignments.
Mhm,
But how do you get the information to really stay with them? And
mhm.
that is always that tricky area. And I'm going to have a lot of analogies with nursing because, I can't
Yeah,
separate
that's okay.
nursing from myself, but it's the same thing with patients. And even though I work with babies, mostly I'm working with the actual family.
Mhm.
And it's not like you walk into a patient's room and automatically there's a connection and they're going to trust you and you've built this wonderful relationship with them. There's a process to that.
Yeah.
So there's this whole kind of warming up process and building rapport and getting to know each other. And it's the same thing with teaching. You
Yes.
have to first, even before I get into all of my fun things and activities and assignments,
Mhm.
even before that, you have to begin to build a relationship. And that's kind of that first mountain that you have to jump over,
Yes.
getting to introduce yourself, getting students to introduce themselves, getting them to talk to each other, and coming up with different ways for them to do that so they don't feel completely awkward about it. Like,
Yes.
talk to your neighbor and introduce yourself, but
Yeah.
giving them a different way to do it. And
Yes.
that's really that first area, even before and still being creative, but even
Mhm.
before all of the fun things I want to do with them, I first have to get them to open up and be open to being open.
Yes. No, I think that makes so much sense. And I can relate that to elementary school students. I can relate it as far as like building a relationship. If you don't have that relationship with them, it's a completely different experience for you and the students. And you have to have that rapport built so that in order to like move forward, so they can feel like the teacher presence and they feel like you care about them, and it's becomes a relationship in which both people want to work. So I think that is a huge key. And also what you said about getting them to talk to like to engage with each other, to engage with you. I would be curious what you do, like what do you do for to do that, to get them to talk? I mean, are you posting things? Are they having them meet in certain places? Like, I'm
Yeah.
just
So
curious.
I do lots of different things. And again, it depends on the modality that you're teaching in. So
Mhm.
I love to teach online. So I come up with, and I say I come up with, and believe me, this is not all coming from my brain. These are lots of different areas that I get these ideas from. But so I'll talk about a couple that I really enjoy doing. So one of them is it's called a snowball assignment. And what
Mhm.
students do is they introduce themselves, and they can either do this in a discussion board. We use a lot of discussion boards in
Mhm.
my online courses. But I also use other tools. One in particular is called VoiceThread, where students, it's like a discussion board, except you
Ooh,
can use your voice.
yes. Well, and that would be great for kids.
Yeah,
Yeah, especially kids that can't write yet. So
exactly.
so it's called VoiceThread?
It's called VoiceThread, yes. So they can use their voice, they can make a video, or they can use text, but I don't let my students use text because we could do that in a discussion board.
Uh-huh.
So I make them come in and introduce themselves, right? So this may be that part where they may not want to do it, they may not be happy about it, but they have to do it.
Mhm.
So, and then also I make them, before they even do their introduction, I make them add like a profile picture of themselves, because we can't see each other because this is online and it's
Mhm.
asynchronous online. So it's not even like a synchronous live
Oh.
class using Zoom or something like that.
Uh-huh.
It's completely asynchronous. So it's, you even have to go that extra mile to make
Yes.
connections. So I make students add a profile picture, so at least we can put a face with a name and a voice. And then they introduce themselves and they say some basic things like, is this your first online course that you're taking? I teach a lot of students who are nurses already, who are
Mhm.
pursuing a bachelor's degree. So I ask them, how long have you been in nursing? What kind of nursing do you do? And then one fun thing that you want to share with us. It could be anything that you want, a hobby, something about your family, something you like to do. And of course, I lead the way with my own introduction, kind of
Uh-huh.
letting them know, breaking the ice a little bit. So students go and introduce themselves, which is the basic thing that we do in all courses at the beginning, right?
Yes.
And then the next step to kind of help with that connection, this one is the snowball assignment, is the next person who introduces themselves does the same thing, adds a profile picture, introduces themselves, answers the question. But
Mhm.
now this person has to find one thing that they have in common with the person before.
Oh.
They just find one thing. It could be that our names begin with the same letter. It doesn't matter
Uh-huh.
what it is, just one thing. Now, the next person also comes along, does the same thing, but they have to find something that they have in common with both of the people that came before them.
Wow.
And then the third person now has to do it for two people. Everybody
Okay.
afterwards has to do
It's
it for
two
two
people.
more people.
Okay.
So even if they're not, usually they come in, they maybe listen to one person or two people, but now they have to listen to the introduction of
Uh-huh.
several different students. And now they have more options. They can say, I don't have anything in common with this person. Let me find someone else. And they're actually
Yeah.
listening to more introductions than they typically would if they didn't have that type of a requirement. And it helps them to kind of build connections. So even if I only require them to respond to one other person or respond to two other people, they may be responding to more people that I
Mhm.
would ask. And another one that's very similar, which I haven't done, but I'm gonna do, this one, I called it a getting to know you bingo. And
Okay.
there's so many amazing ideas out there that I get from lots of different places, and I'll mention a few in a moment. And this one is kind of a play on a couple different ideas that I saw from people. So it's the same idea. You come in, you introduce yourself, you leave your post, And then what I plan to do to kind of keep this going, not just that first day or first week of courses,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to create a nice little bingo card. And I've seen so many cool templates online.
Yeah,
And
that's
I'm
cool.
going to say, find someone who, and of course, now I'm going to listen to all the introductions and I'm
Uh-huh.
going to pull out some nice, interesting things that I hear different people mention
Uh-huh.
and put that on the bingo card. So I'll say,
Yeah.
find someone who was born in another country. Find someone who has 3 children. Find someone who has blah, blah, blah. And I'll fill out the card with all these things. And now they've got to go and find all of these people, using the traditional bingo game, straight,
Yes.
straight horizontal line, a vertical line, a diagonal line, or something like that. And again, it's just to get students to get to know each other and take time to make those kinds of connections. Because when students find similarities, they
Mm-hmm.
feel more comfortable. They feel more
Yes.
willing to share. And you
Mm-hmm.
really need that in an online class, especially in an asynchronous online class.
Absolutely. I think those are great ideas. And I think that they would completely work with all aged kids because I think sometimes we have found teachers feel like they don't have that time, but I'm like, you have to build that rapport, you have to build those connections, or you're not gonna have time, and kids won't do what you need them to do. But when you do things like this, just like teachers do when kids first come into their classroom and their brick and mortar classrooms, you are still doing those kinds of activities, those team builder, class builder kind of activities, so that you can build that community within your classroom. You've got to do the same thing online. So
Yeah.
letting them have a chance to do that, like the snowball thing, I love that. I like both of them. I think they're both really cool. And the whole time I'm thinking, ooh, could you do even like a bingo card, like on a Google Doc where people could you could share the Google Doc and people could put their name where they're, you know what I mean? So my brain is like going into all those
Exactly.
things. And I think that those things are so important. I love that. That's really cool.
Yeah, and you can even, especially if you're doing something like this synchronously, you could even
Mhm.
do this as a game. The group that I heard this one from, I believe it's called Equity Unbound, and
Mm.
the assignment really was a live synchronous assignment, and students were broken up into groups and they had to do this activity within their group. So they had to find someone in their group who met different descriptions.
Mhm.
Obviously these bingo cards weren't set ahead of time,
Mhm.
they were just kind of made up. And then you go into your group and you find someone who meets these descriptions. But
Yeah.
it's even better if you can create them ahead of time, because you can be certain that there are people in the class that meet these descriptions,
Yes.
so that it will help students with meeting each other. But
Yeah.
it could be a lots of fun with kids if you think of something like, find someone whose favorite movie is, I don't know, a kid movie.
Toy Story. Yeah, yeah. Whatever it is. No, you're right. I used to have these back to school packs actually, and I have a little shop on TPT, and I had that. That was one of the things I had was find someone who. It was like a classroom bingo, except for we got up and we had clipboards and people walked around and got signatures from kids, and that's how we mixed and whatever in the brick and mortar. But I think you could do the same thing. It was like find someone who has a black car, find
Yes,
someone who has two younger sisters, like something
exactly.
like
Trying to
that.
find someone who's wearing a red shirt. Like,
Yes.
it could be
Yes.
anything, and it's a lot of fun, and it's a game. And anytime you can kind of turn something into a game,
Yes.
people start to forget about themselves and forget about maybe feeling awkward or shy, and gets them involved.
Yeah, I love that. I think those are important. Okay, so now that you've gotten people like invested, so they are in and they're like, okay, I feel more comfortable talking to other people. Like, what do you where do you go from there?
Okay, so that first step is trying to get them to make that connection with you. Then you get them making connections with each other. And then you really want to try to get them to make a connection to the material that you're teaching.
Mm,
So this can be done in lots of different ways. And I know we think about it only focused on the actual assignments that we give students, but teaching them in a particular way also helps as well. So
mm,
because I teach asynchronously online, I don't do a lot of in my face-to-face class, I have a 2.5 hour lecture, which
Mhm.
I don't think my students would love in an online class. But you have to be a little bit more creative. So
Mhm.
for my students, I give them a lot of recorded video lectures. And
Mm.
again, that could be just as painful as sitting in class in person. So you want to think about ways to keep engagement. And, there's a lot of literature out there about how long you can hold a person's attention for when
Mhm.
you're teaching. I kind of stick with that 6 to 12 minute rule. And I try not to have me speaking for any period of time that goes longer than that.
Okay.
So I try to think about things like, how can I turn this? Usually I try to turn it into a story. So
Mhm.
if I'm teaching about a topic, let's just say I'm going to say the nursing process because I
Mhm.
teach about that a lot. And there's different steps: step one, step two, step three, step four.
Mhm.
Now, instead of me saying this is the nursing process, step one, step two, step three, step four, how can I turn this into a story? So I
Mm.
usually come up with a family that's coming into the hospital and I'm giving them some background. This gentleman is having some chest pain. He's here with his wife. What are you going to do? So
Yes.
students now have to know what is the nursing process, and
Mhm.
that would be your first step. So I tell them, now I'm going to do this, blah, 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 and I will show that. But it's not just me telling a story.
Yes.
Now
Mhm.
I try to go online and find nice pictures. I love to use cartoon pictures because
Yeah.
I just think it just brings up that
Yes.
for me. So I
Yes.
find the cartoons, and it may be a funny cartoon, maybe a bald man and then a little wife, or something just to kind of keep that engagement going
Mhm.
and take them through that story. So at the end, now I'll say this week, you'll be reading about the nursing process and why it's important to start with this first step. As you saw in this story, blah, blah, blah. So I
Mhm.
like to use a story to help students make connections.
Yes.
And I don't know if that's something that's used a lot in K 12.
It should
It's
be.
very powerful.
It is. Yes.
It sticks in your head, and
Yes.
you can't forget this story of,
No, you're
you
right.
may forget the nursing process, but you won't forget, that first step that happened with this patient.
No, I think that that makes a lot of sense. I feel like some people do that naturally and don't even realize they're doing that because as you're talking, I'm like, oh my goodness, how many stories have I told my kids? And I was like laughing to myself, but I'm like, oh, I didn't even know that was like an effective thing. But I mean, it worked. But you know what I mean? Like I didn't have the metacognitive part of understanding that that was actually helping as well.
Yes.
And I think that's interesting. And I also think like what a great way. And I'm thinking of things while you're saying nursing process. I'm like, okay, the engineering design, process. And then I'm thinking scientific process. And then I'm like, all these like things that I would have to teach are coming through to my mind. And I'm thinking, yes, with stories, that would totally grab their attention and it would help them remember. It becomes personal. And when you can add something personal as well, like
Right.
that brain research talks about being able to remember things better when we do that.
Right.
So that I think that makes total sense.
Yeah, and I think that, like you said, sometimes we do it without even knowing. And I've been listening to your awesome podcast, by the way. And
Thank you.
one of the episodes I was listening to was talking about a story you were telling students. I think you had to come up with an assignment like on the fly, and
Mhm.
came up to you were reading this story that you typically do with younger kids, thinking that these students may not appreciate that
Yeah.
because they're a little bit older. And I think of that the same way. Like I use a lot of cartoons
Mhm.
because it's engaging to me.
Yes. Yes.
And sometimes I wonder, I don't want my students to think, oh, this is immature and it's not
Yes.
serious, but it makes a
I
connection.
think so too. Yes, I know exactly what you're talking about. When I had these fifth graders, so I know, and I was using Mo Willems, who is an author, a children's book author. I was using his Piggy and Gerald books, and every age loves those. I don't care what people say; like they love them. They want to read them. They think they're funny. They think they're cute, and I don't think they're insulted. Like I think we might think that, like as adults, like oh, they're gonna think I think they didn't think that one bit. They were totally engaged and listening and it completely worked. So, yes, I know what you mean.
I think a lot of it also has to do with the energy that you bring to it as well.
Yes.
and I think students will think it's fun. Nobody's complained to me anyway. So
Yeah.
I think
No, I'm
students
sure they
will
do
think
think
it's
it's fun
fun.
because I mean, there is a difference between I actually got my master's online and I looked at different programs and I saw I wanted to do it in technology and education technology. So I did an education technology and media design. And the first program I looked at, I would have gotten the information. They would have given the
Right,
information to me, but I wouldn't have like been engaged with the
right.
information as opposed to the school that I went to, which was actually more for I mean, people have gone on and gotten Grammys and Emmys and all kinds of like it's like production and stuff like that. They only had one education department when I went to school there. I don't even think they have it anymore. I think they abandoned it. Yes, they're very creative. And it was like three times the cost, but I was like, I'm going to love this.
Yes,
And I did. I loved it.
it's about that experience. And that's really what we're doing when we're teaching. We're giving
Mhm.
students an experience because you could do it one way and they'll get the information. They can
Mhm.
sit and memorize, but are they going to walk away with anything after they leave this class? And that's what I'm trying to share with my students. So again, getting them one to open up is that first step. But now that they're open, I have to, that's a lot of trust that they're putting in me. And
Yes.
now I want to be able to live up to those standards. So
Yeah.
I want to keep them along the way. And I don't want to just throw things at them because, hey, this is what you got to know,
Yes.
figure it out. I want to kind of walk with them throughout the way. So even that first part about making connections with students, it doesn't go away after that first day, right? So
Mhm.
this happens all throughout, if students having trouble or if a student is not turning something in. And especially in this period of time, showing compassion goes
Yes.
so far. And sometimes you don't even realize the impact that you're having on students just by doing some of those things. And these are things like, I've been in a lot, like I said, I've been in a lot of K-12 arenas,
Mhm.
and I've seen some amazing things that teachers are doing just to show students that they care about them. And
Mhm.
it'll be just a sign in the class that says, you are cared for, or I appreciate you, or things like that. I saw recently it was a little Bitmoji character
Mhm.
with a word, I call it a word cloud, but the little bubble, the little cartoon bubble. And it
Mhm.
was just a message for Thanksgiving, letting them know, I'm so thankful for you and things like
Oh,
that. And I thought, why
yeah.
don't we do things like this in
Right.
college?
Yes,
And
yes.
maybe people do and I just don't, but I sent a nice message to my students saying, I'm so grateful for each of you. I know that this is a difficult time for everybody. Thank you for putting your education, making your education a priority and making time for this, because I know you have a lot going on. It goes so
Yes.
far for students, like,
Absolutely.
just
Yes.
to show them that you're a human person,
Yes.
especially like I said, in an online class where you can feel so disconnected.
Mm.
Just showing them that you care and that you're there all throughout the semester is really, really important. This last before the holiday break, I sent another one in like a little holiday card. Again, something that I got from a K-12 arena, a
Mhm.
little holiday card just saying, enjoy your winter break. It's been a pleasure to have you in my class. And I get these responses from students like, oh my God, and thank you so much. Students don't write you back.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's
They
so
write
great.
you back.
Yes. I know. I love that. I think that's so important. And you're right. Sometimes we forget that it just showing a little bit of kindness and compassion goes so far.
It really
So,
does.
so far. Yeah.
And then, so now that you are the teacher, and this goes to the whole title of your podcast,
Mhm.
entire teacher, because now you've got to connect with students, create the assignment, grade the assignments. Oh my God, grading takes so long.
Oh,
And you
yes.
still have to keep your energy up for your students. So, what do
Mhm.
you do? How do you keep that up? So, what I do is I've got this spark your creativity activity that I like to do. And this is just
Ooh.
kind of when my energy is dwindling and I can't read another paper or give effective feedback, or don't send me any emails right now.
Yes.
I like to kind of spark my creativity. And for this is going to be different for everybody depending
Mhm.
on what type of person you are and what does it for you. For me, like I said, I love being creative. And sometimes I just, you can't do what you want to do all the time because
Yes.
it's life. I got to teach, I got to work, I got
Yes.
to do other things. But I always try either at the beginning of the day or at the end of the day, or if I'm really, really annoyed, I'll just take a break and I do something that will spark my creativity. So for me, that means looking at some of the amazing things that other educators are doing. I love looking, like I said, at the K-12 arena. I look
Mhm.
online, I look on YouTube, I look in different Facebook groups. I look on different locations, like I try Slides Mania a lot. There's just
Ooh.
so many great templates and
Mhm.
ideas there. And I just look at it and it just makes me smile. It just makes me smile to look at all the amazing creative things people are doing. There's like these online templates to play Family Feud with your students, or
Oh,
play
cool.
Jeopardy, or play different types of games and activities. They have different templates to show students that you're thinking about them, or
Mhm.
just lots of different ideas. For me also, I use there's a lot of college teaching journals. Now let me preface this by saying, unlike in K-12 education where you
Mhm.
have to have a degree in education, that's not required for college teaching. So
Mhm.
I walk into my classroom, I've never taught before, I've never been taught how to teach.
Mhm.
So you're kind of in a different element now. So you're kind of just playing along. I'm not really
Yes.
sure what I'm doing,
Yes.
which is unfortunate. And you're kind of feeling your way around. So I like to just kind of collect some of these ideas, and then I come back to it and I get to play. So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
play by thinking, how can I use this in my class? Can I use this here? Can I use this there? How can I make this fit? So I'll tell you a story. I found this one template. It was a template of Hollywood squares. Somebody had
Oh.
created an amazing template of Hollywood squares, and it was so cute. I mean, it was like Sesame Street, though. Like Big Bird and everything.
Uh-huh.
It was all of these Sesame Street characters, and each of the slides was like asking a question, and you can answer the question. You can get the question right or wrong, depending on the way that the Hollywood Squares game is. You pick a
Mhm.
Hollywood character, and they answer the question, and you say whether you agree with it or not. So
Okay.
I was looking at this thing, and I just loved it. The pictures, the colors, it just spoke to me. And I racked my brain and I said, I'm going to figure out a way to use this in my class.
Yes.
And I came up with this idea called the congressional squares. So it's
Uh-huh.
not as fun because I teach a health policy course.
Mhm.
So I had this template, and instead of Sesame Street characters, I put different congressional characters. So I had congressmen and I had House of Representatives.
Yes.
And then on the slides, what I had was these these representatives, just a quote of one of their views on a particular issue. So let's say an issue on legalizing legalizing marijuana. I was going to say, is that a bad word? Maybe I should legalizing marijuana or guns or anything like that. So we
Mhm.
talked about their views on a particular topic. And now a student has to say, do they agree with this view or do they disagree with this view, and explain why?
Yeah.
So really, it's getting to that idea of you have to be politically aware. This is
Mhm.
health policy. You have to know what's happening in the world, but doing it in kind of like a fun way.
Yes, in a
Now
fun
you
way.
and
Yeah.
if you didn't know these characters, now you know them because you've got
Yes.
this picture of them in your head. You've got this quote of a view that they have. And it just struck me as a fun way of putting a twist on a typical activity. I could have
Yes.
said, go find a congressperson and or a representative
Mhm.
and tell us about a view that they have. And it
Yeah.
would do the same
It would
thing, but
do, but it wouldn't be as fun.
it
Yes.
certainly wouldn't be as, for me grading it, it wouldn't be as fun. For the students interacting with each other, it wouldn't be as fun.
Yes.
I really love that. And
No,
then
that's fun. That sounds really fun. Like you're
absolutely,
yeah, when you make things games, I think that is changes everything.
absolutely. And there was another one, and this one was kind of like a twist on The Price is Right. And
Mm.
I just use it as a different way to do kind of like a pre-assessment quiz. So there's no grade associated with it. Students just had to answer. It was only like 5 questions before they do their reading, just to see where they're at. So I typically give them a little quiz, 5 questions, they answer it, they move on. But this one was a fun template with different pictures from The Price is Right, and it had different questions on it. And, same thing, Google Slides. When you get a question right, it takes you to a slide where there's music and it's like your answer was right, and then explain why your answer is right. And if it's wrong, it still played music, so it was still okay. And you can go back to the question and try again. And I asked the same questions. I just put those questions in there, but it was on this background of this is fun and this is engaging and this is exciting, to kind of combat some of these ideas that students have about testing and hating it and thinking it's terrible. And it's just a way to see what you know.
To
and
see
if
what
you
you
don't know it, go back and learn it and move forward.
Yeah.
So I really, really like this idea of kind of gaming and obviously it doesn't all have to be games, but a way to kind of bring it alive for students. How do you get them to make a connection with content, with materials? So mostly what I do with my students, in addition to these kinds of games and fun things that I do, and again, that's my spark your creativity thing. I just go online and I look and see, what are people doing? How can I use this in my chorus?
Yeah,
and I just kind of sit with something until it clicks. And then another process is there's an activity called the peer approach, PEAR. And let me see if I can get the person I found this from, called Ren Mills. And it's really an approach to kind of liven discussion boards. So again, because online courses have so much discussion in them, how do you bring that alive? And the peer approach goes through these 4, it's an acronym, PEAR: personal, experiential, active, and reflective. So personal, how can you make a personal connection with this material? So for example, I teach a topic called phenomenology. It can be a difficult topic. How do I get students to connect with that? And it's all about the lived experience. So tell me your lived experience of being a student, going back to school to get your bachelor's degree. What is this like? So again, this may not completely translate.
No, I do. I think it does. I think it totally does. I think that you can make things personal with kids, with little kids, and that actually really gets them more excited about the content. So I think that totally makes sense. All right, keep going. So personal, and then it's experimental. Is that what you said?
Experiential. So think about an experience. So what's an experience that you've had that we can now relate to? So for this one, I try to ask students about a time that something has happened to them and kind of make that connection. How do you connect it to your feelings? And sometimes, because it's hard to have everybody on the same page, I give them a scenario. So for example, I walk them through, this one is kind of tough, but we talk about grief and loss. And I walk them through a scenario of someone being diagnosed with cancer. And they have to go through the process of crossing out things that you lose in life. It could be physical, your hair. It could be personal relationships with family, body parts. And then at the end, they talk about what this experience was like. How was it? Because they're really creating a list of things that they love, that they enjoy, and they're crossing things off that list as I tell the story. So how was this experience for you? How did you make a decision as to what you're going to cross out? So it's making them have an actual experience.
A common experience.
And then talking about it. And then A is active and creative. How can you get them to do something or create something? So I like these when I do difficult concepts. So I teach a concept called humanism, which sometimes can be hard for students to grasp. So I make them read about it, and then I make them find a picture that represents what humanism means to them. Because sometimes pictures can demonstrate what you want to say better than you can. But now they can tell me why they picked this picture. that they can more eloquently speak about rather
Yes.
than, hey, what, tell me about humanism, you know? And I
Yes.
have gotten such amazing pictures. I mean, I even look at some of these pictures with tears, like, oh my God, what a touching story that these students come up with.
Yeah.
And then R is reflective. So reflecting on something. A lot of times I have students reflect on either a process or reflect on an experience. So again, that activity with loss, that would be a
Mhm.
great example for this as well. And sometimes I make them watch a movie and reflect on a particular concept. So that's personal, experiential, active, and reflective. That helps students make a connection to the material. So it's
Yes.
not just, hey, this is what I taught you. Next
Yeah,
day,
now
here's what
you're
I
now it's
taught you.
over. Yeah, I think this is great. I think this is so good. You somebody where did you find this? The
Yeah,
pear
so
approach?
this was an article. I found it at, I'll send you the link so you can
Okay,
post
yeah,
it.
I wanna link to it in the
But
show notes.
the author is Ren Mills, Wren, Ren Mills.
Okay. Ren Mills. Wow. Yeah, that's great. I think that makes so much sense. And I think it's necessary again at all age levels. Even though your examples are specific to nursing, it's not hard to like to think of an example for children, for younger children. So I think that's excellent. And I love this. It was Slides Mania. That's where you found like
Oh
the
yeah, Slides Mania is one that I use. There's all sorts of amazing groups, Facebook groups. There's like 100 million of them. One that I've been obsessing over is Bitmoji Craze for Educators.
uh-huh.
Oh my God, they share such amazing things in that group, amazing templates, and just to kind of spark your
Yes.
ideas.
Yes.
That's all you need. All
Yes.
you need is a jumping off point.
Mhm.
And then you can take it and adapt it to what you're teaching and share it with your students. And it's just doing something outside of the box. And you don't have to go nuts. You don't have to turn
No.
every assignment into this
Yes.
huge, grandiose thing. And that's why I talk about that peer approach. As long as you're making connections, you don't
Mhm.
have to spend 10 hours creating this
Creating
amazing
something.
Google
No.
slide
Yeah.
presentation, even
Yeah.
though that would be great and fun. But how are you making a connection to this material? So the
Yeah.
more difficult material, I try to do a little bit more creativity with it.
Mhm.
But the other ones where it's easy for the students to understand that concept,
Mhm.
now I want them to make a connection here.
Okay. Yeah, I think that makes so much sense. And you like it's funny that you say that you don't like you didn't have like formal like this is how you teach because you're like a natural. You've got all like the highly effective like qualities going on here. I'm like thinking about all the things that you're saying and I'm like what is she talking about? Like you're like a natural teacher and you don't have that like you must do it like this. You have been able to figure out how to like do it so outside of the box, which is like the most magical learning experiences in my opinion. And that gives me the chills. Like
Oh,
that's
thank you
really
so
exciting. Ooh,
much.
I'm like,
That's,
that
that's
did
so
not mean to
sweet.
happen. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really it's comes from a passion for this. I love teaching and I love helping students take that next step because I know from my own experience the teachers that have made a difference to me and the teachers who have made content come alive.
Yeah.
Everybody hates math. I love math. I had a great math teacher, and it
Yes.
makes a difference. I'm not
Mhm.
so crazy about English or history.
Yes.
Particularly chemistry. But I'm
That's
sure if I
funny.
had a great teacher, I probably would have loved that too.
No, you're right.
Say that, you know, there's bad teachers, but I think some of it comes from the way that you are taught and
Mm.
you feel that this is the way that is the most effective, but
Yeah.
everybody learns differently. So you
Yes.
have to try some different things, even if maybe you're not 100% comfortable with it yet. I know a lot of people aren't so happy about technology right now, but
Hmm.
this is the world that we're in right now.
Yes,
You
this is
kind
the
of have
world
to
that
make
we're
that
in.
connection, even if you didn't have to teach online. These kids, like,
Yeah, they need that. Yeah. I that's the part of it that I actually appreciate, to tell you the truth. Like, okay, so it's kind of forced some people out of their comfort zone and made them realize how like important and part of like our lives technology is, and
Yes.
we have to use it.
Yes.
We're raising digital natives here. Like we have to. And then something else you said that made me think of things that I've heard before, like teachers tell me that I'm not going to entertain them. And I always feel like I think we need to step back when we say things like that, because why not? Like, why would we not want to entertain them? Who wants to sit through a boring class? Like, I
Yes.
don't. I don't like going to PD that where they're just reading me a PowerPoint. That
Correct.
irritates me. And I'm like, why can't we do something more interactive here? Like, why are we not at least getting up and moving around or doing something visually or something? For gosh sakes, I
Yes.
don't need you to read the slides to me. I can read that for myself. And I
Exactly.
think they should be entertaining us, and we should be entertaining our kids. We want them to be excited about it.
Yeah, and why not? I mean, you don't have to turn it into a circus, but you can if you want
Yes,
to. And why
yes.
not? Get
And
them
why
up,
not?
get them moving, and get them active. This is what I tell my students also, again, with nursing. If I'm
Mhm.
coming in to teach a patient about a diagnosis that they have, I'm not going to sit and say, hey, you're at risk for a stroke, eat vegetables and and fruit.
Yeah.
You have to meet them where they are. Hey,
Yes.
tell me, what'd you have for breakfast this morning? Oh, wow, I love that too. I
Yeah.
was thinking, is there a healthier way that you might be able to prepare that meal? Like,
Yes.
I could come in and teach you about healthy eating, but is it going to make a difference to what you actually do? No, you have
No.
to make that connection. And if the connection is through some type of engaging activity, what's wrong with that? You're not
Yeah.
taking away from the material in any way.
No, not at all. In fact, you're enhancing it.
Mhm.
I really appreciate this, Natasha. I like took like pages of notes. Like I have like you gave some really good information. It's so funny. I know you're not talking to elementary school teachers, but it's so relevant. So it makes complete sense. So
Well, you
thank you.
guys really inspire me because I just love what you guys come up with, because you know that you've kind of got a barrier that you got to get past. You
Mhm,
got to find a way to connect with students in a way that they can understand it. And you have to adjust your material depending on the level that you're teaching to.
mhm,
And we can learn so much from you in higher education, because I think we lose a little bit of that because we
mhm,
know that we're working with adults.
mhm.
But man, just the things that you guys do, it's amazing. You guys don't get half of what you deserve. So
Oh,
keep up the great work.
thank you. Thank you so much for being here.
You're welcome. My pleasure.
Where could people find more about you or more information from you?
Sure. I've got a website at natashanurseclarke.com. And there I keep a weekly blog with some really great topics related to teaching online. And I've also got a Facebook group called the Online Educator. And again, it's a fun group of educators just talking about teaching online. How can we be more effective teaching online?
Yeah. No,
And
I think it's really, yeah,
hopefully
that's
having
helpful.
some fun.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you again.
You're very welcome. Thanks so much for having me. I appreciate you.
And thank you for sticking around. That was a long one, but oh, she was so good. She has so many good ideas. I think that they can be relevant for pretty much any grade level. So I appreciate Natasha for coming on, and I appreciate you. This one tired teacher is ready for a long nap. Until next time, sweet dreams and sleep tight.